Willie D Live.
You know what I mean? So once I figured that shit out, once I knew that I was smart, oh man, you wasn't gonna stop me. And that's what it is. It's like coming into yourself where you find out who you are, and I'm like, wait a minute, y'all were derailing me from my purpose. Now I know what my purpose is. So I never trusted those systems ever again because they destroy our people.
How demoralizing was it to you to have your own teachers tell you that you wasn't good enough to make it to college? And how long did you stay in special ed?
I don't even remember, man. I didn't even keep track of what I was in or what I wasn't.
Were you in there for a year or two, or you remember most of your academic career as an under?
It was a big part of like elementary school mostly.
So it was that experience that made you think that you was like really not that intelligent. Them reiterating that to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I just think that generally speaking, that system it's a racist system, man. It does not bring the best out of any of our kids, man. You look at the stats on black boys in public schools, it's terrible. So I don't remember exactly how I was classified in certain sectors. I do remember being in special ed for a while, but I didn't even know what it was. I just know they were like, okay, you should be in this class because you're not as smart as the kids that are in this class.
Did you ride the short bus?
No, I did not ride the short bus.
Why is that funny, man? The short bus.
Well, the short bus is funny.
Did you ride the short bus?
I didn't ride the short bus. No.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, man, y'all don't come after me, man. Don't come after me. I'm a journalist. Okay, so let's talk about the de-dollarization that's going on right now. You got China, you got India, you got Brazil, you got South America, you got Russia, all pulling away from the U.S. dollar, and they're trying to start their own centralized dollar. Yeah. What do you think about that? And how is that going to impact Americans?
So far, let me just say this. China and Russia and all, they've been trying to get away from the dollar for a long time. Are they going to succeed at some point? They might. I think that as you process this, I would avoid the alarmist thinking of like, okay, this means the dollar's going straight to hell. There are reasons to be concerned, though. For example, during the pandemic, we spent way too much money. The debt levels of this country are unsustainable. In 1960, if you measured U.S. debt to GDP, which is almost like a debt to income ratio for regular people, it was like maybe 50%. Now it's like 120%. And what's coming up actually is the Democrats and Republicans, the idiots we have in Congress, are going to be fighting over the debt ceiling. And so basically it's just this big game of economic chicken that they play. And usually one side yields and they eventually come to a compromise. There may be a point where they don't come to a compromise, which means the economy kind of goes off a cliff a little bit because the U.S. government starts defaulting on its interest payments. That is a significant problem, right? Now, in terms of other countries moving away from the dollar, this has been in motion for a long time. The United States, one thing that the U.S. has done well in terms of money and capitalism is we just have some of the best financial markets on the planet, just the most liquid, most everything. So even when people try to move away from the dollar, it's going to be very, very hard for them to do that. So it doesn't mean they won't set up alternative economies. What they're basically forming, you talk about BRICS, with Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is they're doing what I've encouraged black people to do. They're just forming another economic gang. Most economics in economic warfare is gang affiliated. You have Apple. Apple is a gang. Like what I call it a gang? Well, because they got a bunch of people working toward the same goal. They have a code of conduct. They have the same little logo, the same mission, right? They have rules. If you break the rules, you get kicked out of the gang. So effectively, NAFTA was an economic gang. We got together with Russia and Mexico and Canada and said let's create a coalition, right? A lot of the black community struggles economically because we don't always have a gang. Like your family's supposed to be your first economic gang. That's where everybody in the family.
Man, stop.
What?
Say that again, man. Say that again.
Your family is your first economic gang.
I got pick up. Feel free to pick up from where you stopped. But listen, I gotta say this, bro. Why in the hell do we have this idea that we can't work with family when most families, most people in this country who are rich, who are wealthy, they got wealthy with their families first.
Yes.
They didn't get wealthy with strangers and outsiders. They got wealthy with their family.
That's right.
Why do we buy into this ignorant ass slowpoke narrative that we can't work with our family?
Because you black and you've been traumatized like a motherfucker.
Wow.
Being black in America has been hard as hell. The things that have been done to us have never been done to anybody. The things we've gone through, no one else has ever gone through. We need to heal. You know, we show up, we're traumatized, we re-traumatize each other. Family members traumatize each other. In the Black Business School, we created, just because to deal with that issue, we actually created the first ever Black financial therapy department, where we got the best Black therapists to help deal with things like financial trauma, financial anxiety, all these things that we don't talk about because trauma is so normal for us that we just think that's part of being Black. We have like the trauma Olympics. Like, well, you don't know what it's like to be Black. When I was a kid, we didn't have no food in the house, and I had to go steal from the neighbors just to eat every day. You know what I mean? And you know, we had so many roaches and da da da. You know, like that's kind of like our story.
What'd you call it? The Black what?
The trauma Olympics.
The trauma Olympics.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what we do. We really think that if you Black, think about this. If a person's like, well, I'm Black and I had a pretty good childhood. I had 2 parents. We had plenty of money. Life was good. You know, people think that you're weak or they think something's wrong with you. Like, oh, well, you ain't really never gone through nothing. Let me tell you what I went through. And the thing I learned over time, because I was heavily traumatized too. What I learned is that it ain't supposed to be that way, man. You ain't supposed to have like 4 friends that got killed before you finish high school.
Man, preach.
You know, you're supposed to have a father in the house. You're supposed to have enough food to eat. You know,
Hey, Memo, can y'all bring a collection plate in here right quick, man? Come on, Pastor. Come on, preach, man.
Man, you know, it ain't supposed to be like that. And what we got to do is you have to make a decision that it's going to stop with you. That in my generation, I'm going to do the work to end these curses that we pass on to each other. And that trauma, see, here's the thing about economics. Traumatized people have a hard time just even doing business with each other because a good economy requires trust. Let me give you an example. The reason we go into recessions a lot of times, the reason we might have a recession coming up is because we had these bank failures, right? Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, all these banks failed, right? Well, banks are afraid now of lending money. A lot of banks have kind of froze up the lending, right? Especially regional banks. So they're like, man, if we let this money go, we might not get it back, or our depositors might bail on us and do a run on the bank, right? So this can actually cause the next recession because you need bank lending in order to make the economy run. But then when consumers are like watching the banks fail, what do? Well, you're like, man, I got to get my money out of the bank. I can't, you know, or I'm not going to go buy anything because I don't want to, I might lose my job, right? So all this fear, right? This fear causes everybody to just sort of be afraid to deal with each other, right? It's like a virus. And all that shuts the economy down. Because trust and the free flowing of resources is what makes an economy move, right? So the Black community, when you have a family where you're like, okay, I don't loan money to relatives because I loaned money to my cousin and he didn't pay me back. I had to go kick his ass to get half my money back or whatever. Or you're like, I don't do business with family because because they steal from me or whatever. You're violating that trust and creating that fear of each other that disallows you to even build anything together. You know, and that's huge.
How do you not exhibit fear, but still have a certain amount of precaution so that you don't hurt yourself financially?
I think that there's a thing called calculated risk, you know, and calculated risk means that I am courageous enough to trust, even though I know that there's some chance I may get hurt, I may get burned. Like love. Like love can't happen if you don't have trust. If you are so traumatized by your previous relationships and have never healed, you can't really properly love somebody because love requires you to put yourself out there. You have to be vulnerable, right? So you either can go through life and just be an island and just keep up walls and keep everybody away, or you can properly process. See, that's the thing. And my wife is really good at talking. This is the benefit of being married to a therapist, because and I get pissed off because she ends up
A therapist with a
diagnosing me.
PhD.
Yeah, she diagnoses me, man, because I took this test. It's called the ACEs scale. I think everybody should take this test. It's ACEs. It stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, and it basically measures how traumatized you are. And I took this test. My wife said, "Well, if your score is above a 3 or a 4, that's pretty bad." I think I was like a 7. I said, "Oh God," So a lot of that ability, and what she told me, I remember was, she said that a bad experience is not necessarily trauma. She said trauma is when you have that bad experience, but you could not properly process it. So if you can go back and look at the most horrible shit that ever happened to you and process it properly, maybe with an expert, maybe get a therapist or whatever, then it helps you to kind of heal and just sort of understand it and accept it, so you can kind of move forward as a normal person in life. And so doing business with people is, again, it's just like forming relationships with people. It's all the same dynamic. If I can't put myself out there knowing that sometimes it ain't going to work out, then I'm not going to be successful. In the black community, man, bad things happen to all of us.